it goes.
Well, obviously.
Just leave it. Yeah. Right. If we have to pay to give it back. Agreed.
No. Then
The red is strikes, the blues is changes, and the yellows is what we have wanted to talk about.
Okay, so we'll try to get the dollar rate, $3 Just one to get every.
No, that's about
To adjust this.
Are these off of our last month we gave?
Yes.
You want to try to hit some of the ones that we don't have any issues with? And see if we
can
can
do
get
that.
those out of the way?
You ready to get started?
Sure. So we just printed this out. So this is your counter proposal to our last one. Is
Yes,
that right?
yes.
So you worked off our document
Yes,
and give me a color coding.
and gave you a color coding.
Yeah, blue is what?
Blue is additions, red is reductions.
And yellow are things that I think we want to talk about.
All right.
Haven't we haven't made a.
So you want to try to go through the ones that have no blue, yellow, or red and see if we can get those out of the way?
Okay, or since this comes directly from the city's proposal, I think everything in black, there's no issue.
Right, but for example, the first one is an agreement, and it looks
Yeah.
like you haven't made any changes to what we proposed. And so you want to just TA that on the side, or?
We did
No, I
in blue. Oh, you get out too? Okay, all right. Then yeah, I guess we can TA that.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Okay, let's go for yours then. Yours is the one.
All right,
I'll just-
quiz, what's today's date?
December 7th.
Uh-oh,
Yeah,
Dale Rubin.
we want to, are you signing for the city or?
I am, yes.
Okay. Either I can or Justin can, so you have a preference.
These are two-sided, that could be, create some issues for us.
It should have page numbers.
Yeah. But for example, I just signed this and it's got a back page to it too, so looks like we gotta talk about that. So, how do we do this?
I wonder if it just printed that way, because our version, the one that Justin read,
Yeah, our version is single page.
single.
Sign that one.
Your version single, yeah, let's just do that. We'll lay it aside and get copies. How's
Okay.
that?
Okay,
Pass that around if you wouldn't mind.
there we go.
That'll work. We'll just put these aside over here. How's that?
Okay.
At a break, we'll get some copies. All right, looks like strikes and lockouts doesn't have any changes to it. You want to do that one?
Yes. strikes and lockouts has nothing, yeah, that's fine.
I see you've got Article XX on all of them, so I'm assuming that all of us are in agreement that we'll just number or letter them eventually,
Right.
whatever makes sense to.
Yeah. But with, thankfully with page numbers now, we'll at least know how to put it back together.
Yeah.
And then dues deduction, there's nothing, there was a question that I think got resolved, right? About dues deduction?
Yes, yeah, we resolved that issue.
Okay.
Okay.
That's fine.
And I know in some of the articles, we'll like XX as a reference, we'll just remove
Yeah,
the
go
page
back and
numbers. I mean, we need the article numbers for that and correct it.
Are you on page 17 now, temporary assignment?
Yep.
Okay. Hours of work and overtime. I think it's
Hours
hours
of work and overtime,
Yeah, page 26.
26, 27, 28
through 29.
29.
Yeah,
Yeah.
All right.
there's a little change in 7, right? Take that out.
There is a little change in settings.
Sorry, no.
After I read over it, didn't make sense. The verbiage.
Okay. And then 11, we got the question answered, whatever that was.
Yes.
I think on hours of work and overtime, there's just a word missing on number 7 on page 27. On the first sentence, no employee shall authorize
Scheduled overtime.
scheduled overtime.
I'm sorry, which section is it?
7 on page 27,
Okay, no employee shall authorize.
scheduled overtime. Is what the word was.
So there should be overtime after scheduled.
Yes.
You good with that?
I think that's right.
All right, just write it in there and we'll initial that. How's that?
Unless the chief wants to let us authorize our own overtime.
Okay.
I'll be working late tonight.
200 hours of overtime. Christmas time.
He's a generous guy, but it's Monday. I don't know.
300
Not
counselors.
bad.
Yeah.
Maybe get all 300 in the first one.
Mhm.
So the very next one, page 40, jury duty. Fine.
Hang on, let me,
Okay.
I just put my initials next to this overtime thing.
Oh, okay. We didn't initial it, but can in margin.
I'm gonna just put JW here for you instead of passing it over. Is that all right?
Is that good?
Yeah.
You want?
Yeah, that's fine. I saw Gary write it.
Staple here, do it. That's all right. All right, what's next?
Page 40, jury duty. And again, I'm looking at only ones that have no blue, red, or yellow on them.
Yeah, exactly. Jury duty? It's like training and tuition.
Yeah.
Yeah, page 51. And 2. At least 4 more after this one that are. Drawn that long.
Severability? Is that the next one? No, retirement.
Retirement.
Yeah. They're probably gonna work off of it.
Just one question or one clarification. You'll see on point 2, on this one, page 56,
Uh-huh.
we indicated no proposed changes.
That was in there.
I think that was the same language as you guys had. I just wanted to make sure.
Look.
That's actually your guys' language, the one that we presented the first
Yeah.
time
Yeah, yours says no proposed changes to it as well.
had the actual, I guess, it was like the ordinance or something.
Did it have the ordinance in it?
I think it had the ordinance.
Retirement.
I'd have to
And
look.
it says in XX point
Give me a
2,
minute, I'll look
no
back for the
proposed
original
changes.
proposal.
Right. So you're actually. It says, so if you read the introduction, it says, this contract will be amended as follows.
The ordinance.
Right,
Okay.
it'll say the ordinance will be amended as follows. And we were just saying that we're not making any proposed changes during this negotiation. I don't know
So
if
do
that-
we even need that in there?
Yeah, it seems like it's just wasting.
You don't have to put it in there, but I've changed the sentence before that says that it's changed in this manner, like the preamble. Like a strike, parties agree to amend the police pension as follows.
I'm trying to find it.
Oh, I see. So we have, in the old PBA contract, we had like 27.2 and tier 1 and tier 2 and all that stuff.
Yeah.
We just strike out the parties agree to amend the plan. effective.
Yeah.
There you go.
You got it?
Would that be the cleanest way to do it? Is to just eliminate that last sentence of 1? It says the parties agree to amend the police pension fund ordinance effective the first of the month following the adoption of the ordinance using a tiered approach as follows. Take that out and then take out XX2. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
Does that work for you guys?
Yeah. That, is that all right, you guys?
I don't have it.
Okay.
I forgot that's when we present.
I just don't know because I don't know what it said originally.
Let me look.
Yeah, it's on the screen.
Oh, there it is.
perfect.
There it is. Good.
Thank you, Heather.
Is this the original one?
That's not the PBA contract, though. The PBA contract, the old one has tier ones,
Yeah,
tier
that's a tier
twos,
two.
and all that stuff.
Yeah, let's subtract. Okay.
Do you need to see that?
Please pick it on, okay.
Yeah, Justin, for what it's worth, in one, in like the fourth, I'll call it paragraph, it's really just a sentence, says there will be no change in accrued benefits. That's it. So it already says that.
Yeah.
I don't know why we say it twice, but.
We just want to make sure we're 100% not changing anything.
Yeah.
I think
Wanna make
that's,
sure we're
and
clear.
that's what it says.
Yeah.
It just doesn't define, again, what's already defined in the ordinance.
Right.
It's just reassurance.
Okay.
I mean, that's-
But the ordinance has been changed to reflect what's in the old contract.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Not yet.
Okay.
I gotta get to it
Yeah, the old one had like the tier one, tier two.
Yeah.
Right.
And all that stuff. So
first, which is in the ordinance.
And so it's all reflected.
It's all, yeah. All we basically did was copy the ordinance and put it in the old contract.
And that was the point. It sounds like they agreed to an ordinance change as part of the contract. and it went
Right,
back
and then
to-
we never
Correct.
took it out.
So that's how it's-
Correct.
When we made the change, we put
Okay.
it in the contract and then
Never.
never said, hey, we don't need this continued language in here.
So we're just referring to the ordinance, that's, so,
You need to
without,
change that.
without including it. Okay, because
We
it
can't
could
change
be,
that, right?
Yeah, we wouldn't
Right,
be
we would
able
have to, any
unilaterally
pension changes,
change
we would
the
have to
ordinance.
agree
Okay.
to. And then it would have to be,
you know,
we'd have to do the MOU or whatever indicating changes.
We'd be
Right.
required to bargain any
Right.
changes.
so, are we mutually agreeing to strike that as indicated up there, the last sentence?
So that would make the most sense, if you ask me, since what's in the previous contract was already included in the ordinance.
And then the next section will be that too.
Yeah, and then the next section would become two.
Okay,
You say mutual consent agreement.
okay. So I could have Justin initial on the margin here.
Either that, or do we have the ability to print that out? Apparently not. Do we? You want to just print it out, or you want to do the handwritten thing?
No, we can check.
Okay.
I
Let's
got
go
it. I
ahead.
got it, so you don't worry.
You good with that?
Let's
Yeah.
print that one out.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll just set that aside then. I should leave 3 more short ones without any, they're pages 57, 58, and 59. Severability, entire agreement, and duration.
I'm good with severability and entire agreement. Duration, we just haven't figured out yet whether we're going to do a multi-year or whatever, so it's just got X's in there, so
Okay. you wanna
let's
leave
just
that?
wait on that.
Okay. We can do that.
Had- Before, who's
Heather,
typing?
I think Heather.
Yeah,
You got something else on that?
yeah, the last part of the sentence above where it will be, there will be no change in accrued benefits of plan members. It says, the city agrees to maintain the benefits and member contributions set forth in the police pension fund ordinance. If we just put a period and strike that with the changes provided below, because there aren't any changes provided below.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and that just says the city will fund it as per the ordinance.
Okay. We good with that?
Very good. Yeah.
Everybody good?
It works for us.
Yeah. But we, just so you know, we administer the plan as written.
Okay. All right, he signed severability and entire agreement. It's coming over to you.
Yeah, yeah, it's all right.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, that's your.
Service by an elf, it looks like. He's got the full gear on.
No, you didn't. That's good.
That's okay.
All right, let's go back then and
Okay.
hit the ones that have some change. Recognition, association recognition.
Yeah, the reason for the requested deletion of full-time is I think this is in accordance with PERC. Doesn't draw a distinction of full-time.
Do we even have part-timers? Have we ever had part-timers?
Yes.
Yeah. Have they ever been considered a part of this unit?
I don't believe so. I don't know in the past, like, when it's, they have times that was part of the. I think they were.
I'm not sure if they were or
Jamie, I
not.
know.
Let's see what Jamie says. I think
Okay.
that's why we put this in there, because I don't think the part-timers have ever been considered to be part of the unit. There are already. Is that right?
Yeah, there aren't, and, I mean, we have reserves, but they're not part of the unit.
Here's this retirement one.
Okay.
Thanks for looking at it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. 100%. That's fine.
This is the certification information. Yeah, I didn't check it, but Greg says this definition or this verbiage comes straight off of the PERC certification on that date.
That's probably true, but what we're thinking, what our proposal is designed to do is to try to head off some issue about whether you've got part-timers, and if so, whether they're included in the bargaining unit. We've apparently never included them in the bargaining unit.
No.
No, our reserve police officers.
We have or
are-
have
We
not?
have not.
We have not?
Yeah.
So that's why we wanted to clarify it.
I guess we're okay with that. It's not certainly not a deal breaker.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're fine with that, but.
All right.
You want to, on these, do we want to initial in the margin? If we're,
Either that or we could change it up there and get it printed.
Okay.
But we could,
yeah, that's better.
yeah, let's do that. Can we do that?
With a couple of
Look
clicks.
at our guru. Go on.
Reject.
Should take me a week and a half.
All right, we'll print that one out then.
Accept change. Okay.
You do it.
Management rights.
You do it.
Unless you want to do it.
No, I just wanted, I didn't want to double, do
Can
it.
will you let Debbie know that I'll be sending her something for and she can just maybe.
Okay. You want us to wait on Jamie?
Yeah, why not?
Okay. Just one second. Very clear. Since I went to the wrong building. Stop on the way in, so I'll real quick.
Yeah, yeah, it could go, so,
And that just, might be just.
yeah. Yeah, okay,
Somewhat.
okay, okay,
I just don't think.
I got you.
We agreed to accept these changes, which I think if you make changes, is important.
So like the
for us to have
first
facts
access,
after.
you don't disturb or
But
an option.
now it just
So
says-
if it's a,
We'll run it as
it's
a-
a concept
Yeah.
calling me, it was.
So that's written.
That is written in the ordinance, they can't change it. That's ordinance change takes us. a while.
Oh, I didn't do that.
Yes.
100%.
And I am 100%.
Did that on purpose.
What's this agreement may come up with it's better funds.
But then that's also.
Yeah.
She's got her.
Well, that's the knowledge policy.
Okay.
What I call her, we're saying is,
That's not.
we're gonna give them the state property tax.
Yes.
Guess we're dealing with it now.
You need to have the dogs.
That way,
That way all the
they'll make
dogs
it
are
cleaner.
I tried, one night, like I said, so there we go.
Wake up, didn't wake up. I was like.
Let it break for that. You made him switch before.
Yeah, I did sit here first.
Sorry, that's all right. Okay.
Oh, you guys switched on
It's
me.
all right.
Now we're messing with it.
Trying to mess with you here now.
That one's got some comments.
That's where she
margin, I guess.
unshot through.
Okay. Okay. After this one, you want to just go in order?
It's up to you. Or you want to try to pick the easier ones? Management rights looks like it's going to take some discussion, but we're glad to listen to what you have to say about it, or we can skip it over or go to some.
I guess we could set the ones that have more blue and red aside,
That's
if you
fine.
want.
All right.
Yeah, I think employee rights should be pretty simple.
And so employee rights, page 6. What's added there, and I added some more language this morning just to pick up both at the federal and state in light of the Supreme Court decision a couple of months ago about sexual orientation or transgender status, just to make sure the agency's in compliance with state and federal law. So this is just citing the protected legal classes and also under chapter 447, which it's already set forth.
So when we first talked about some of these articles that have references to state and federal law, one of the concerns we had is if you include this in here, then arguably there's the right to file some grievance over that, when there in fact is a remedy provided under these statutes. So that's our concern with adding this. If you added this, then arguably you've got another bite at the apple. If there's some sort of claim of discrimination based underneath this, there's protections under state and federal law. This would give you another bite at the apple to actually file a grievance, but I don't think you want to have a grievance over some sort of like race discrimination or something like that.
Well, yes and no. I think the problem with going through the EEOC, FCHR, and then litigation, obviously that takes a long time. If someone believes they're being discriminated against in the department and they can file a grievance about it, it might get resolved fairly quickly through the grievance process. It could be that, the chief might be persuaded that, yeah, what you described to me, it does sound wrong, and I step in and do it, and it might be over within a few weeks as opposed to a couple of years litigation process. And I
But
think
then
that-
you've got an arbitrator deciding whether there's some form of discrimination.
And this might be a different way to
Yeah.
get there quicker, but I know we have policies in place also as a general employee policies where those types of reports can come directly to HR. Is that, around that, where you wouldn't have to wait, you wouldn't have to necessarily file a claim to bring it to HR's attention that we can address a lot quicker.
But you have two different policies. You got the PD policy, which is a CLIA mandated standard, and then you have the city policy. So which one do we pick and choose which one we go with? You have two conflicting policies. So would you
I'm
follow?
not sure that they conflict I believe I have to pull them up, but I
Yeah.
think we say it can either be reported to supervisor staff or HR, which is what I think the city policy.
Yeah.
refers to.
Honestly, I think it's kind of a good thing that, I mean, if it's, report to a supervisor and just the officer's uncomfortable and can come outside for, completely outside the organization and go to HR, I think that gives, an added level of protection potentially.
I mean, I think the goal is to address it quickly, and we thought this was the most efficient, quick way to do it, because the outside process that Wayne's talking about certainly is available, but once you file a charge or go down that path, it almost always ends in a separation for the officer, because you've taken the first step towards litigation. And that's a hard bridge to come back from for both sides. The employers feel like, well, if this employee has filed a charge of discrimination, I've always heard this from defense counsel, and we do some defense work in my firm, and it has some rationale behind it is, well, if we ever later discipline that officer, they're going to feel like it's retaliation. So it's better to find a way to separate severance agreement, whatever it takes to be done. That's the problem with only having the outside process. If there's an internal process that HR can address it and have some authority to step in and say, yeah, it looks like this officer is being treated differently for no reason but their race, age, gender, whatever it might be, then I think that's what I understand the union is seeking, is just some mechanism without having to go to the nuclear option, which is the EEOC litigation.
Yeah, there's definitely a process that they can organizationally address it outside of, through their chain of command. I would say in my experience, and granted, I know that you've got a broad level of organizations you work with, but I would venture and tell you in my experience, just because somebody's brought a charge, not just a complaint on the policy, but nuclear option charge does not mean we try to look to have some separation for the employee. I can say firsthand from my experience, that's not our path that we have taken. Not that I would encourage that, but I'm just saying that's not what I've seen in my experience here at the city.
Yeah.
And we've recently seen, maybe not officers, but I know we've seen PD employees, come the HR route. I know that we've handled some in the last few months.
Yeah, I think we're open to the HR route. I mean, I know there's two cases. I don't know. They may have already been terminated. I'm thinking of, it's public record, Gatling and who's the gentleman that kind of got outed in the Nolan. They got outed in that email that went out with his handicap or disability. And I think he's now separated from employment.
But to be clear, that wasn't any city-initiated action.
Yeah.
And I think
Just,
Gavin came after
there's
his
not the
time.
city
Yeah.
going after people who have filed claims, we just don't.
Right. I'm not saying city does. I'm just saying.
Okay, I just, the way you
Right.
kind of went at the
Yeah.
beginning, I was like, well, we don't do that.
Right,
so.
but Jamie, typically, it does make it uncomfortable for both sides. It makes it untenable for the department because they feel like, as I said, and employment defense lawyers tell me this all, well, we can't take them back because they'll feel like they're untouchable. If we ever discipline them, they'll feel like it's retaliation, which I understand that argument. On the employee side, it's uncomfortable because they feel like we're back in a hostile work environment. It's going to not be workable. But if there is a way, we could set this one aside, I guess. I think the union felt like the grievance process might be the most quick way to address any type of discrimination or union bias or retaliation. But if there's another mechanism, we're open to listen.
Try this on for size. Can you read my handwriting?
You can read your signature.
I've already read yours.
You must not ever want to be a doctor, Wayne. You can actually read
Yeah.
everything.
I can actually print.
Yeah, allegations of discrimination under this section shall be handled pursuant to city policy and not the grievance procedures set forth in this agreement.
I mean, there's your fast way to do it, and as opposed to going through the grievance procedure.
assuming for a moment the union was agreeable to that first, I mean, what you have here, it doesn't address the latter part, which is not in policy, and that is union membership or activity.
We could segregate that out. That's a good point. I mean, that's really not part
Because
of
I think policy just covers the
Yeah.
sex, age, race.
We could segregate that part out.
Yeah, I think the union, and certainly not casting any stones here, this is an unusual situation in Port Orange where you have had two unions
Right.
battling for the membership. And Chief and I talked about this the one or two times that he asked me to step in his office, and the upper administration of the department is PBA, and the rank and file are now IUPA. So I think that's a reason why, if we can segregate that out but leave it in as it relates to the union, they might be a real list. We can take some time to discuss.
Here, give it back to me and I'll see if I can try to do that.
I don't know if this, takes it far enough, but just so you know, under our anti-harassment policy, it does have or any other characteristic protected by law, which, we're saving the Florida statute in there, so.
Yeah, if it said or Florida statute, because a union membership is not a characteristic, but it was, yeah, I think that might be a good compromise.
Because we've already had sexual orientation in it.
Yeah. I just checked that last night. I was thinking, wait a second, and I was trying to see how it's phrased with the EEOC, and I think they call it, what about the sexual orientation and transgender status.
In the one that you gave to me, it looks like you've got a little redundancy here because the XX1 begins by saying that we agree that there's no interference with the right employee to become a member of the association, refrain from becoming a member of the association. And then in the second part, the blue part, you've got also pretty much the same thing. Union membership or activity or lack of membership or activity. So if we took XX1 and made it that first sentence in black, so you protect the association membership or lack thereof, and then made XX2 the reference to the discrimination, race, color, religion, and all that stuff. And then added in XX2 just the part about allegations of discrimination in this section would be pursued pursuant to city policy.
It might work.
Let me at least write that up and we can revisit it, but see if that is
It may
a
not
possible way to.
Maybe after interfere, it could be interfere, comma, discriminate or retaliate against someone. Interfere. Yeah, maybe the word interfere, something like that might could be expanded in the first sentence.
If you threw in retaliate, that might get a little bit confusing, but if you said discriminate, parties agree not to interfere or discriminate,
Okay.
well, with the right. That might not make a lot of sense.
Well, or maybe you refer there to chapter 447 as set forth. Because even if chapter 447 gets later amended,
Right.
it will stay there. And that covers no retaliation or interference.
Can you pull this one up?
Yep. That's online.
All right, see if you can try to change that the way I. And it's confusing, so you let me know, but, all right, while she's doing that, maybe we can
Okay.
move on to something else. I'll have her do that. We'll print it out and take a look at it and see if it works.
I mean, even though it's got a lot of blue on the next one, I think the main I mean, I can tell you, I think it's mainly expanding the number of representatives.
This is association representatives?
Yeah. And there's, on 3 to have the right to be represented by council and 1 representative. From what I understand, what was it? Go ahead. Is this what the PDA has been doing? 1 representative?
Yes, I don't think it wasn't in the original, but they did have, on some IAs, they did have an attorney and a business agent. What our purpose for this is that we offer an attorney at any IA. And so because Gary's outside of the norm and he's not working just directly with just all of Port Orange, he works with other cities, it'd be beneficial for one of the board members to be in there to help him with policy and just to clear up anything, questions he might have about local entities or stuff that's going on.
And I'll just tell you, Wayne, by practice, I mean, I'm going here, at 1 o'clock, assuming we're done, I'm going to an IA with the lieutenant who's had no issue with me being present, and usually Greg or sometimes another representative. So by practice, it's already been occurring. That's what I'm saying.
All right, we'll have to talk about this one. I have a question for you on number 6.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen that PERC case out there, but there's a PERC case involving a community college, I think it's Miami-Dade, where they had some union representatives that had been going to like conferences and seminars and stuff like that. And there was an unfair labor practice filed by one of the bargaining unit members. And PERC said that in order for the taxpayers to pay union representatives for anything, it has to be something that is related to their duties as a bargaining rep. And they cited like negotiations and arbitrations. They found fault with the idea of a public employer paying for union representatives to do something other than that kind of duty and responsibility. I can send you the case if you want to, but it's been something I've talked to several unions about in the last few years.
Okay.
There's a concern I have about taxpayers paying for union representatives to attend conferences. And if you want to take a look at the case, I'll send it to you.
Yeah, please do.
You know Mark Richards down in Miami, he represents a lot of unions down there.
No.
Apparently he was like put on the payroll by the union, so his salary was paid, and as a part of it, he went off to some of these seminars and
Was
conferences.
he an attorney or a rep?
Oh, yeah, he's an attorney.
So he was,
Yeah.
okay.
And one of the bargaining unit members caught wind of it, made some hay out of it, and said, hey, the union dues shouldn't be, not union dues, the public employers, taxpayers should not be spending money to have union reps go off to conferences and stuff. I mean, it's fine to pay them to sit in negotiations and investigations and bargaining and all that, but that's where we draw the line. So I've been concerned since that case came out about any.
Is your concern like, I mean, I wouldn't be asked to go. That's why I asked for the
No,
distinction. for
it'd
this
be
guy.
any of these guys, any of the reps.
Yes, normally it'd be with IU for the president and vice president go to a conference once a year.
Right.
Just updated labor law, training, stuff like that. It's just training for the union stewards.
Right. And that's where this case seemed to suggest that wouldn't be in line with their duties and responsibilities as representing employees in the bargaining unit, like negotiations and things of that nature.
Unless they, I'm assuming, I haven't seen the case, is the implication unless they pay out of their own pocket?
Oh, yeah. I mean, if they wanted to go and have time off, that's fine. I mean,
Yeah, this
take
would just
personal
be-
leave or.
This isn't the
unpaid
city
leave or
paying
whatever.
for us to go there. That would just the 3 days off. Instead of using vacation, we just.
Well, this says without loss of pay.
Well, yeah, that would be, so if there was a weekend we had to work, we get those 3 days off, paid. But I understand what you're saying with the case law or with the per case.
Well, maybe I'm reading this wrong.
It's not, they're not paying for the travel,
Right,
the
I get
conference,
that.
just the three days we're missing.
Right, but
So it
those,
is paying for while we're there.
those 3 days that you're missing, you're still getting paid your
Yes.
regular hourly rate. That's the problem.
Okay.
I tell you what, send me the case
Okay.
or the case citation. if you have a case, that's.
Yeah, it's Miami-Dade Community College cases, I recall.
Okay. So we'll
I'll make that.
we'll set this one aside then, I guess.
All right.
The other question that I would have.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
At the beginning, we had defined the association
Yes.
as XYZ, and then we use the term the association throughout the agreement. So my concern is when we say like, oh, we provide a copy to the association, you know, are we required then we're copying the whole 5-panel party, you know, because so things like that are just, and I know that's small administrative, but in my mind, I'm going, do I have to remember to copy all 5 people as opposed to, you know? there
No,
has to be a
anything
representative in
this,
that, so.
anything the city would have to send to the association would come to either,
Right, so
me or
that's,
Gary,
that would be my
you know.
concern with that.
Yeah, we could
defining the
then I'll
association.
distribute it
Yeah.
out to who it needs to go to.
Yeah, maybe, and if that's not clarified, we could say that the association for notification purposes by the city would be the president, the vice
Yeah,
president,
and
or
that's just
business
an
agent.
example off the top of my head. I don't know
Yeah.
what else we use the association attached to, but
So as far as like you guys emailing anything to us, it would be to the president, whoever the president is. And then the president would be responsible to distribute it.
All right, I'll send you that case more to set it aside.
Or the president, business agent.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, Jamie, if we were to indicate maybe 2 people, like the president, and business agent, like if it only went to Justin and he was out of town or something, then
Yeah.
Greg would get it, at least one of the 2 would get it more than likely, then they would get it to me and the rest of their board.
That needs to be put underneath here.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not trying to, obviously, one union, it's not trying to do anything that would be prohibited by a decision, so.
Yeah, I don't think I don't
We'll-
think either one of us want to get
Yeah.
into that position. So read the case if you disagree with it. You know Rich Wicko, right?
Yeah.
He and I have gone back and forth on this. He finally did concede that it's
Okay.
probably problematic. I
Okay.
did negotiations with him over at the city of Orlando, so we removed that from the contract.
Are there?
It doesn't prevent you guys from going to it.
Okay.
At all. It just prevents the city from paying.
Paying.
for it.
Ari, I put a question mark by that, after I look at the case. Is anything else of concern on association?
Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about the other stuff because you now
Okay.
got 5 members as opposed to 2 on the negotiation committee. I don't know that we can agree to that. We'll talk about it.
Okay.
The right to counsel and a representative, I don't know if we can agree to that, but we'll talk. So yeah, we've got some stuff to talk about.
Okay. All right, we'll set that aside.
Trying to keep it organized and out of the way.
You want this organization?
yeah, I think you already cut out now in structures.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. You want to go to seniority?
Sure.
Okay, that's pages 10, 10 and 11. There's a proposed addition as a subparagraph 6 that addresses in the event of a reduction in force or layoff at the lieutenant rank. Kind of, as I read that, I guess it just applies sort of a trickle-down method that I think the union's trying to find a fair way to not bump someone who's got some seniority from a spot.
Yeah, and to reassure when it opens back up, they're next in line to get that promotion again.
The lieutenants aren't part of this party even, right?
Correct. They have their own, but they would become a member of the bargaining unit if a reduction in force occurred and they were reduced
To a sergeant.
to a sergeant.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this one with the manpower issues we're having, if, say they had to reduce the lieutenants down to sergeants, and then the lowest sergeant would go back to patrol officer. Once we get back to staffing, moving that sergeant or that lieutenant back in that position. Mainly, we're focusing on the sergeant, moving him from back to patrol, back to a supervisor.
Yeah, I think the first subpart is recognizing what could happen in this, but the more important part is how does that sergeant get back?
Yes.
Has this happened before?
No.
Yeah.
I'll have to talk to them about this. My gut reaction is the idea of having something in the contract relating to a requirement that a position outside of the bargaining unit, lieutenants, have some process to go into this unit if there's a reduction in force. I don't know that I'm in favor of that. I understand where you're coming from, though, in terms of if that occurs, and then the sergeant who's been affected, what happens to that sergeant in the event, as I understand it, your second scenario where things go back to normal, I guess.
Yeah.
I can see that.
We could strike the lieutenant part out, just if the reduction in workforce that made the sergeants move back to patrol.
Yeah, without
I mean,
referencing,
it was just like the steps, like lieutenant moves back, the sergeant's probably gonna move back, and that way, but we can not reference the lieutenant.
maybe
in there.
just that in the event of a reduction in force, which results in the sergeant
Yeah, sergeant,
being placed at the position of patrol officer,
yes.
blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
And if you want to try to get this one out of the way, we can huddle for a minute and see what we want to do with this.
Okay.
Yeah, why don't you look at this while we're huddling? This is
Okay.
our review on that. Do we have some place to huddle?
Sure. Recording is paused.
We're gonna break out
You can leave it on. We'll just mute it. You just push the
I'm
mute button.
troubleshooting with that. Yeah, did it get you on?
What would we get on my desktop? Let it have Word on the surface?
Yeah.
I was unconnected, reconnected to your internet.
I did that already. And I removed my surface. So
That's what I'm looking for.
I keep dropping my.
My internet connection is fine, and I would hate to go to my internet to document.
I'm trying to.
So that would bump a sergeant.
Well, I emailed.
I got it, Ted.
The one I just printed so that.
Yeah, now I have to get back to my original.
What's that under? Is it
We're
under
on side.
seniority?
I know that's under,
Lieutenants?
that's under, give me just a second. Yes, seniority.
where was it recently? I think it was the city of Orlando. They had a fire department policy and a city policy
Yeah.
on harassment, and somebody filed a sexual harassment complaint.
Yeah.
And the EEOC came in and said, well, which policy applied, you know, and it was like a
That's-
big, huge.
That's what we
thing.
want to try to clarify.
Yeah, that's what I want to get, yeah, I don't want that.
And if it's something to where they want to make the city policy, the department policy, then that's fine. But you're having two conflicting policies.
Do we have, Jamie, a separate, like, sexual harassment policy that pertains to just the police department employees?
That'd be a question for the chief, if they have a department.
We need to look into that. I mean, I just want to be sure that we're
Mhm.
all on the same page.
We're
in terms of-
proposing amending the policy that complaints of discrimination would go to HR, but they would apply the police department's policies because they have their own anti-harassment,
Right.
anti-discrimination.
And the officers are bound by those because they have a program called Power DMS, and it puts all the policies in there.
Yeah.
And you have to go and electronically sign that you acknowledge
That you
and
read it.
understand the policy, so you're held to that standard. So
You know,
I just don't want there to be a situation where we agree to something in this contract, say, police department policies, and somebody files something under HR, and we go, oh, wait a minute, you know, you didn't follow the police department policy, you know?
I wouldn't
Yeah.
know their last name.
All right.
I know with Orange County Corrections over the years when I was working with them, their IA department of that 800 member agency.
Sure, they probably have their own HR person.
Yeah, they had, the
Yeah.
IA only handled, inmate complaints or complaints from the citizens, whatever, or policy violations. Anything related to discrimination went downtown to HR because they didn't want their IA investigating discrimination. And in a way, that's kind of what we may be on board with agreeing to here, that but HR would apply the policies that these officers have committed to.
but then
follow.
HR can't do interviews because then the whole police officer bill of rights kicks in. So I don't know how you do around that.
Yeah, that is, Wayne, do you hear that? That's one issue. I don't know if HR decides to investigate or investigates a claim of discrimination.
And it's against a police officer.
Or it's going to have to be done in compliance.
It's going to have to be in compliance with the law enforcement officer's bill of rights.
Yeah.
Mhm.
In which case, you probably have to have an IA officer do it, who's trained in it.
Mhm.
I remember OP, Office of Professional Standards in downtown Orlando ran into that. But then I think there's some PERC cases or some unions, Wayne, that have pushed only a certified officer
Yeah.
can interview someone if discipline may follow, that HR people, even though they're trained in the law, may not, that it has to be a law enforcement officer investigating a law enforcement.
And it's got to be in that department. Because I know
Yeah.
I've seen some agencies that are too small, don't have IA departments or IA trained officers.
Right.
And they'll get like a sheriff's department to do it.
Right.
And that's a problem. Or at least they telling me it's a problem.
It's a problem, yeah, well, you got somebody else, but, yeah, but it'd be, I don't know how you would do that. I mean, HR could still set in with they couldn't participate, but HR could still set in as long as all the questions
Yeah.
are going through the investigator.
They could do
I
that.
think you could have HR set in.
I need to get all of this straightened out. So
I leave there for 5
they made
minutes,
a
that's all I have.
proposed change in what we just gave to them, and we put it on here and it's being printed.
Yeah.
So we can consider that.
We're
We'll get back to them.
closer. We're closer.
They need copies of these TAs. Can you make copies of those? All right.
I could tell they can leave it at one. Anyway, I won't mess that up.
Okay.
Six.
We can go grab a bite.
Okay.
Talk. Or maybe you guys. Yeah. We're gonna need a fair amount of time, I
He's
guess.
broke. He ain't mad nothing for nobody. You guys are mine for us.
Here.
I know, I already.
You want to laugh? No, you're going to see it.
I
Yes, I'm able to move to 2
What?
p.m.
Negative.
We can all get a water.
There's a monthly service fee. That they,
What's the service fee?
Because we,
Now,
time
we
do
have,
they,
we don't have a minimum balance. or
If you're
something.
under minimum balance.
Well,
time they
And
need to
several
leave?
copies
They leave
of
it
that
that way.
one.
We need to get,
Jamie and.
Are they leaving that? Are they
Do you
leaving
want a
that-
copy of this that she just put together?
Are they
you
leaving?
know, if I have to, I'll contribute some of my own until we get
Yeah,
it.
they got to
Maybe
leave
we
pretty
could do
soon.
You know, we could do a raffle.
I'm sorry, could you get one
Copy, I'd like
We just need
Justin
to
to
get
have
our
Yes. copy, if that's okay. Ed.
keep all this
But at
straight.
least now that, oh, thank you. These are the T8 articles. So at
Those are the
least,
T8 articles.
um, you guys now, I guess you just got ours. Did they get it Friday from you or this morning?
Just this morning.
Okay, well, you guys will be able to have time to read and process all of it. Oh, there you go, thank you. Those are the T8 ones. and
Yeah,
here's
3
a
times.
copy of what we
Where's the
just-
TA ones? Have you got them?
Right there.
Should I
Heather,
write down?
yeah, and I did.
All right.
Who wants to be a custodian of these?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask the same thing. You
Heather's
wanna be the
the custodian.
Justin, or you want me to put them here?
I
All
can
right,
hold
so
on.
that's for us to
Okay,
consider
okay, that's fine.
for next time.
You could even,
I'll
I
scan
mean,
them
no
in
rush,
and
you
then
can scan
I'll
them
wait
in and
to
I'll
get this
upload them.
until we make sure we're
And then here's a copy of, it hasn't been agreed to, but that's what we just proposed.
Where did they go? Did they leave
They're
already?
wait, I thought we weren't coming back in, so they're still in that, right?
Oh, we need to set another time to meet. So we need their
You wanna do it?
participation.
I guess how long do you all need to
Yeah, that's a good question.
read what we provided and process and discuss? I've got my calendar, we could meet just as soon as you guys feel ready.
Let me just ask.
Are mornings still good for you guys now?
Anything's good.
Majority, everybody's on days.
Except for Jared, because he wants to be special.
It's hard being special.
Has Christmas Eve become a holiday all of a sudden?
Can you do me a favor?
Sure.
When you send me those emails for this, could you put it to my gcook@iupa.org,
Yes.
please?
Chuck, on the 11th.
I said we come back.
I'm ready. Tomorrow, Wednesday?
Tomorrow, Friday.
You just want to do it in the morning. I hate it. It's good for you. Not so
Yeah.
good for me. I just get buried.
As long as I don't get any car breaks.
Yeah. How many more you got?
We were still holding 3. I went and tracked down the owner. He was heading there, but I don't think anything was taken. It
Okay.
was open, but it was all empty. So, I mean, interesting. It'll be interesting because they cut the fence in 3 different spots, but they opened the back of the trailer. So I think they were staging it
Yeah.
because it was on the water plant. I
Mm,
don't think they got back there. I didn't see any tire marks
Bill
back there.
records.
But I think what they did is they came in, maybe staged it in case someone
That
showed
was a
up.
briefing.
And they just, they fell out, I guess, exit
Mhm.
strategy.
Yeah, you can still see one.
You
Guy
can
in
still
one
see it.
trailer
CID.
away.
Really?
Like to open it, like it was halfway out of the parking spot.
because it was too tight.
Yeah,
It was backed up
against
against
the fence.
Right.
It's still in there.
Got the back
Well, they do.
consoles, all stalls.
That's
The other, the long guy that got his trailer stolen.
Yeah.
No insurance.
Yeah.
$16,000.
Sally Ford's still there?
Like here in Vegas. He had insurance.
The steel doors.
Yeah.
It's just.
It's a closet.
Especially if you
Your mom got-
you hit a rock, set it
Oh,
through
yeah.
somebody's window.
That's the place to be in Coordinator.
This,
Yeah,
yeah. this
yeah,
is
yeah,
right here.
where he still owns the one. Then
Unless
that's
it floods and then you're.
No, this is- I think this whole thing's works with it, to be honest.
You probably have to be licensed.
Yeah.
Sure.
And it'd be a lot easier to set.
You gotta get it, yeah, you at least gotta get a business license.
With the generator.
And I would imagine you probably need
That's a big old building.
I would imagine. The city's not gonna
It
get rid of that
depends. Yeah,
And they didn't do
some
that here.
businesses do. Like mine does not require insurance
Really?
for my dog training.
It's strange.
Because,
That to me is insane.
yeah, because, and I was, dog training does not fit into the
Is
insurance.
ours? I mean, it smokes out the second
But like,
story.
the only
I see
liability
the air
is
change.
it's on the homeowner.
Yeah, because it
That
it
train
goes,
is their
it
home,
goes,
it's not
when you
mine.
sucked under there.
Okay, okay.
The liability's on
You
there.
figured
Okay.
it, right?
Yes.
It's all somewhere else. Yeah,
If it bites me,
Directed away from.
it bites me.
Yeah, you just gotta deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's bad enough, I guess I can go out to them, let
Mm.
them take it to their homeowners. But
Does next Monday even work for you guys before we go to National Nations?
Next one.
Next Monday?
Next
Works for
Monday.
me.
we are off. So, yeah. We're good with that.
Monday's fine.
Yeah.
For me, I don't have a number.
Monday works for me.
Monday the 14th, Monday off.
Yeah, Monday is good.
Waiting on this to
Yeah,
Sorry.
even better.
You said touch base with
I worked the night before, but whatever.
You get off at 11 though, right?
Depends on the day. Is it, this
yeah,
weekend is yours, so yeah, I'm off at 11:30.
Monday morning,
Charlie's
okay?
days, I would come in at 5:30 PM. and Alfred's
Monday
days,
morning?
I come in at
Monday
1
morning?
PM.
or
Monday
afternoon.
morning's fine.
Monday morning?
And we will be in this room, right? Make sure. Is that,
I'll have to see if the room is available,
Okay.
but we'll try for this room.
okay, okay,
9:30 again?
yes. This one is quieter, I noticed with the AC unit.
All right, so we've got your stuff. You've got the one we got that to look at too. And so we'll just dig in more on the 14th. 9:30,
Yes.
this room. Okay.
Okay. And Heather, you'll let us know if it's not going to be this room, right? I'll keep the ones. These are the ones we haven't gotten to. We've got clips separately, the ones.
Let's see, your, in terms of us talking, we're out Thursday, Friday.
Oh, wait.
Um,
I think these ones are actually good.
Wednesday's pretty light.
These are the ones we haven't addressed yet.
Oh, yes, that's
Tuesday's better.
Here's the ones that, still to be addressed.
perfect.
Tuesday isn't tomorrow.
And all you guys can be here? next Monday?
You're around tomorrow, Tuesday.
Yep.
We're around a long time.
Huh?
Maybe
All
not.
right,
Jared's
so,
bringing donuts.
put down the dates.
I will bring it. I was gonna bring them.
He was, he actually called me.
I was
If
going
they
to bring
lower
them.
it,
I
Hey,
don't
Jamie.
want-
days later in the afternoon. Have they? Reducing it.
You want me to get this?
Just kidding.
I'll get you some.
I'm just kidding.
What about Mel's?
I'm
I
kidding.
give it a bunch of French toast casserole.
That one.
Get you some of that sausage bread.
$4 tomorrow.
Are you a cook, Jared?
No.
I'll have to do it by phone, obviously. I'll be in there.
Oh, yeah.
I get it, the amount of my cooking resides between the microwave and my cell phone.
Microwave yourself.
Does that work?
If you ever want a really good dish of SpaghettiOs and meatballs, I'm your man.
If for some reason I get hung up,
Yeah.
I'll let you know.
Yeah.
That should be done. That work for you?
My grandma taught me how to
You
cook.
want to do it on Zoom or just a regular call? You got a call-in number or something, just want to call myself.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
9:30 next month.
All right, I'll try to look through all this stuff before then. All right,
And yeah, that sounds good. 9:30 next Monday. And if you have any, obviously any questions on anything, Wayne, you can call me or email me. We can, you and I could discuss if there's something.
sounds good.
Let's get some more clarification.
You do. Okay. All right, cool.
Yeah.
All right, see you guys.
See you guys next Monday.
Good to see all of you. Chief,
Good to see you all too.